Okay, the doors are closed. That means you are in it. Welcome. Good afternoon. Welcome to our session on Demystifying Microsoft Information Protection Solutions, a panel with our esteemed experts. The format of this is going to be a little bit different than a lot of the other sessions you might be at this week around the topic of Microsoft Information Protection. We've got over 20 sessions just dedicated to Microsoft Information Protection Solutions, so plenty of opportunities to go deep on very specific capabilities. The format of this is different in that it's a little less structured format. We wanted to give you an opportunity to ask any question you want amongst our panel here to answer your questions, because a lot of times in the regular sessions there's not enough time at the end to come up to the mic or to ask questions. So really, thinking about all the new capabilities that we've disclosed this week, or even capabilities that have already been in market or that you're already using, this is your chance to come up and ask the easy questions and the hard questions or anything in between amongst our panel. So really nothing is off limits. A couple of just practical housekeeping rules. Because the session is being recorded, I'd ask that you use a microphone. In a minute, if you don't want to use a microphone, I also have a link to an Office form in which you can go to that form during the session and type in your question in an anonymous fashion. And if it's selected, then I'll just read it out loud for the sake of audio as well. So two options, one is a microphone and one is using the online form that I'll give you a link to in a second. So that's the general approach. To start off, let's do some quick introductions so you know who is on the panel, so you know who to ask the really hard questions of. So let's go ahead and start, Tony, with you and work our way down.
Hi, everybody. I'm the newbie. My name is Tony Themelis. I've been at Microsoft for 5 months, and I'm delighted to be here to talk about Microsoft Information Protection Solutions. I work on the MIP team, and my job is to help you classify, label, and protect your documents. So discover, label, protect, and monitor your sensitive documents. We do this across all of our services, so it works in Exchange, in SharePoint, in OneDrive. It works in applications, and it works across your devices.
Yeah, the gradient of newness goes this way. So my name is Kartik Kanik-Sabason. I've been in Microsoft for 3 years, just like what Tony said, all of us focus on information protection, making sure that the entire end-to-end experience, whether it be through Office clients or Exchange, SharePoint, the AIP client, scanner, and so on and so forth, those are all things that we'll be talking about. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Enrique Sagesse. I'm a program manager with the information protection team with the customer experience part of the organization of the engineering team, which means that I'm basically interface between these guys, the engineering teams and our customers, helping our customers understand the products, deploy our products, and also bringing feedback back from our customers to help our developers prioritize the right features and develop the right product for the future. And I've been with Microsoft 22 years, beat that mic.
I cannot beat that. My name is Mike Pear. I'm a PM on the Office organization, focused on building in this MIP sensitivity labeling capabilities into the Office client application suite, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, and so on.
I'm Moss Libman, program manager also on the Microsoft Information Protection team, working on data loss prevention as well as our classification and protection suites. And I've only been here for 17 years, Enrique, so you are clearly the king of the... and looking forward to your questions. So.
All right, right on. Thank you very much. Here is the link to the form. But of course, I do encourage you to use the microphone when we open it up, but you can do this as well. Just a quick recap of some things we've been talking about this week to help get the ideas flowing in terms of questions. I'm going to click through this. I think if you have gone to any of our sessions so far, you've seen a lot of these introductory slides. I'm going to click through this and just get to the chase here. I wanted to spend just a couple minutes recapping some of the things we've announced this week. Some of these you might have deeper questions on. It's funny, like information protection covers quite a wide range of capabilities and processes. And any of that is available for questions today. When I was reflecting upon this, I was thinking about some market research that we recently did amongst a lot of CISOs. And we specifically asked them, when you think of information protection or the term information protection, what comes to mind or how do you define that? And I was expecting some regal answer from these CISOs like, oh, information protection is really about applying the right protections and controls so you can manage and govern your data across its entire life cycle. No, this particular CISO, he was joking, but he said, information protection, you know, it's really about making sure your stupid employees don't do stupid things. And you know, he was joking, but there is an element of truth to what he was saying in between the lines. It's really about ensuring that, in general, your good-meaning employees don't accidentally do bad things, and making sure you have the policies and procedures to help achieve that. And a lot of our new capabilities reflect that in helping you achieve that. So a couple of things that we've gone through this week. A lot of new investments around what we call knowing your data, giving you visibility into your sensitive data landscape. What kind of data you have out there, where it resides, what kind of sensitive information is in there. Another way of saying this is shining a light on your dark data. So we've had a lot of things, and Tony has talked about this in multiple sessions around the experience in the Microsoft 365 Compliance Center to help you know your data and experiences there. We've also had a lot of announcements around including sensitivity labeling in Office apps across platforms. So now, no matter which Office app you're working in across Windows, Mac, iOS, and Android, now you can have end-user-driven sensitivity labeling across all the Office apps, which really gives you a consistent experience for end users and much more comprehensive protection across the Office app ecosystem. Outlook Mobile is part of that as well. So now we have sensitivity labeling in Outlook Mobile and iOS and Android, which is great. Not only end-user-driven manual labeling, but also including the concept of automatic classification and labeling in Office apps, specifically Office on Windows and Office for the web. So as a complement to end-user-driven sensitivity labeling, having the ability to automatically inspect the content for data in use in that app, and then based on your policy, recommending or automatically applying the label within that Office application. We've also talked about enhancements in the ability to collaborate on labeled and protected files that reside in SharePoint Online. So of course, we'd never want to be in a position of having to trade off productivity and security, so having the ability to co-author on protected files. Having it being subject to e-discovery, search, and other policies is really, really important. So we announced that as well, enhanced collaboration of protected files. We also talked about this week the ability to apply sensitivity labels not just within Office apps, but also to other services like SharePoint Online containers or SharePoint Online libraries, for example, or Office 365 groups or Teams for that matter. So applying sensitivity labels at the container level for the purpose of controlling access and also governing data within that container. Power BI, this is a big one as well. So enhancing the ability to protect sensitive data in Power BI artifacts. So for example, applying sensitivity labels to Power BI dashboards and reports. And so that data is protected, and even if it is exported to a different file format, such as a PDF file or Excel file or PowerPoint file, it inherits that label that was applied to the Power BI artifact. So once again, trying to follow data throughout its life cycle and trying to ensure that sensitivity labeling and protection persists with that particular artifact. So that's a big one for Power BI. Also enhancements around the ability to view labeled and protected PDFs natively within Edge. PDFs are very common, pervasive file formats, so the ability for end users to easily view these protected PDFs directly within Edge is just a nice experience for them. And additional partner integrations that we've talked about that Kartik can talk about more as well. So not only are we building in our labeling and protection capabilities natively, built into our apps and services, we also want to enable our partner ecosystem to extend information protection capabilities to their services and apps as well. Adobe is an example of that, as well as supporting CAD file formats. Since if we are not going to build it ourselves, these partners are in the best position to build these capabilities directly into their own apps and services. So this is just a sample of some of the great announcements that we've made. Hopefully this is good inspiration to ask your questions. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and start opening it up. I think you've seen this before. You can take a picture of this as well. The point is, to what I was describing earlier, we have a ton of sessions. So this will help you identify which specific sessions you want to go deeper on a topic But in this one, we'll open it up for really any question that comes to mind. So I'll pause here if you want to take a picture, but then I will go back a slide to land on the announcement slide in case you wanted to come back and revisit those in particular. All right, so that being said, who's going to be the first brave soul to step up to a mic?
All right, sir.
So in the cloud security transition, we're seeing DevOps. In fact, we're seeing DevOps move to such a degree that things that have been traditionally infrastructure security have arrived at a point where a Fortune 50 CISO at a bank looked me in the face and basically said, hey, look, if I can't script it, if it doesn't have API functionality for every single thing that's in the product, I'm not going to buy a product, right? And we've already started to see that, that lens start to rotate into compliance. So is there a future where we could script DLP rules, content rules offline, hold them in Git, and then potentially sync them into the workspace?
Go for it. You're the new guy gets the microphone first.
Yeah, this is the test. I'm going to pass or fail now. So thank you for the question. I think the notion of extensibility is something that's core to our tenant, right? In other words, we need to build everything that we do inside of the Microsoft stack, but a core principle, and this is a principle that comes down from Satya through Microsoft, so we do it everywhere inside of the company, is we need to make sure that we provide extensibility, APIs, SDK interfaces, so that all of the technology that we're using can be extended outside of the Microsoft stack. So with respect to the policy, it's something that we don't have now, but it's something that we are talking about. In fact, Kartik and I are working on a specific extensibility plan that we need to implement going forward.
And in addition to what Tony mentioned, I do want to impress upon the fact of what you just said. Yes, the idea is the fact that any kind of compliance capability and information protection capability will definitely have an API or an SDK or a programmatic interface in that context. But at the same time, we also have to be very realistic on exactly what type of interfaces that we want to expose, all right? So we are going to be looking at that and kind of figuring out exactly what are some of the things that help CISOs to be able to migrate to the cloud effectively. But at the same time, there are certain interfaces that are uniquely, like for example, some of the control plane capabilities that we may still not expose. So I do want to be clear, when we say the fact that we're going to expose a whole bunch of capabilities, it's to allow folks to participate and see their information showing up in certain areas. But there will also, we also reserve the right to figure out exactly how we expose some of these APIs, or whether we even expose APIs to certain scenarios. So it's going to be on a case-by-case basis in that context.
And with that in mind, it will be very useful if you could, after the session, share with us some of the scenarios in which you're talking specifically where or how will you leverage that extensibility. And we can meet after the session, so you can send us via email because we like to gather that data.
Let's go to a question from the forum, and then the next person can come up to the mic. All right, here's a good one. If you created labels and policies for AIP, do you have to recreate them for MIP?
Okay. First, let me clarify the terms MIP and AIP. AIP and MIP are not two separate products or separate platforms. MIP is a more encompassing term that covers what we do with AIP. AIP is one particular implementation of the MIP stack. Though in many cases people refer as MIP to the unified labeling experience and what's available through the Security and Compliance Center and what's available built in Office. But both are cases of MIP, of the Microsoft Information Protection Stack. So the question will be, do I have to recreate labels to move to the built-in labels or to the unified labeling world when I've been doing that in the AIP world? And the answer is no. Today you can, from the AIP labeling console in the Azure portal, you can activate unified labeling, which will take your existing policies and all their your existing labels and all their settings and migrate them to the unified labeling platform. And I say migrating because what we're doing is not copying them. We're not duplicating the labels. We are moving them actually to the unified labeling platform. And from then on, everything you see in both the unified labeling management console from the Security and Compliance Center and what's available in the AIP portal it's all coming from the unified labeling platform. That means that any change you do to your labels is actually going to be reflected on both words. You're not separating the AIP classic word from the unified labeling word. They become both sourced from the same labels. Unfortunately, that's not true for your policies. Policies are the containers that allow you to associate labels with specific users. And the reason is because the way in which policies are implemented in Office, in AIP and in the unified labeling world is slightly different. So what we have is, actually this is a new capability, it's a copy button. So in that case, you go to the AIP portal, you press the copy button and your labels are copied to the unified labeling world. So you don't have to recreate them manually. So the answer to the question is no, you don't have to recreate manually neither your labels nor your policies, but while the labels continue to be synchronized all the time between the two words, the labels, the policies, you will have to copy them every time you make a change by pressing that button.
Just to add to what Enrique said too, once you've gone ahead and moved your labels and your policies over to the Security and Compliance Center portal, ideally if you want to make changes from that point on, please do it on the Security and Compliance Center portal because we are in the process of looking at ways to minimize changes that we end up doing on the Azure portal side. So as a best practice, for lack of a better term, make those label changes directly on the Security and Compliance portal once you've moved from the Azure portal over to the Security and Compliance portal.
And it's important to highlight that over the last few months, we've made great strides in bringing parity to the Security and Compliance Center. And there are only a couple features like hold your own key and a couple of minor features that are not available in the Security and Compliance Center. Most customers don't have to worry about those. So as of today, the vast majority of customers will be able to do everything they need to do from the Security and Compliance Center portal or from the Security and Compliance Center PowerShell. Some settings are set from PowerShell, but you don't need to go back to the classic portal once you do the migration.
Good, thanks. Anyone want to ask a live question before I go back to the form? Please.
Do you have any information about the integration of sensitivity labels into Microsoft Teams? I know that I can label a Word document and upload it to Teams, but for example, ensuring that every document that is uploaded to a channel will be labeled, or for example, that every information that is shared via Teams has certain sensitivity labels assigned to it?
So speaking to the Teams integration, so first of all, one question would be great to hear from you is, what are the additional places where you would want those labels to work within Teams chat? Oh, sorry, my hand flailing. So one, it's actually interesting to understand how would you want those labels to show up in Teams. Now speaking to, Teams as a collaboration portal sits atop of SharePoint and OneDrive. So all the features that you're talking about where we're integrating sensitivity labels and auto classification for SharePoint and OneDrive will accrue to the content that your users are sharing and collaborating on in Teams, because Teams is just giving you that view atop of that content. So that'll expose auto classification for labels, all the protection that comes with them, and whatnot.
Does this mean as soon as the labeling is activated in SharePoint Online, I will also see it in the Teams client?
So I think that's a good question. I don't know the timelines when Teams will surface all of so Teams has a different view on the SharePoint portal that's slightly different than the native SharePoint view. It's definitely something that we're talking to them about. I don't know the timelines when that will have parity, but definitely surfacing that kind of metadata, surfacing the fact that you have labeled documents that are in a site portal is a P0 to us as far as an experience.
And the other one is, for example, that all the chat messages or the meeting contents has certain security assigned to it if they're, let's say, created via the Teams client.
So can you hear one more time? You mean the documents that you're creating in the Teams client, or the chat messages, or?
Oh, so for example, that a customer would be able to say this is a team that is only used for confidential information. Everything that is uploaded to that team, independently if it's an internal user or a guest user who is collaborating on that team, everything is confidential.
So again, I think those are so the ability for you to configure a site and label a group you can, so there is the ability for you to take a sensitivity label, configure some permissions that control your container, your group access. So that's something that's available for you to control. which you can use to state, do I allow external access to this group? What kind of permissions do I allow to download the content? But I think you actually asked two questions. One is, hey, how do I control and gate access to the team? And then how do I assure that content that's shared in that team is always classified in a certain way? So for the piece one, there's container labels, which is something that you can now assign and use to control the access to that container. And then auto classification is how I would see you enforce the need, which is I want all content in this team to be treated in a certain way, to be labeled as confidential. And that's where auto classification would come into play as a policy that you could configure that would take either the container or the type of data that you want to protect and then automatically apply that.
But is this currently available? Because here I see, for example, sensitivity labeling in SharePoint Online, which is the background of the team. But I haven't seen any clear communication that sensitivity label integration in Teams is available now or, for example, in 6 months or whatever.
Yeah, so as far as unfortunately, I don't have the timelines when additional exposure of those labels will be natively in the Teams app. Definitely, it is something we're having conversations with, and I would suggest maybe at the booth to come on by, and we can loop in the Teams folks to give you a little bit more insight into what's planned there. Mike has
I just want to add one thing there. So because, like Mas was saying here, because Teams is built on SharePoint, and in SharePoint, the way that you open documents and consume them and edit them is in the Office on the Web apps, Word Online, and so forth. One of the things here that's new at Ignite that we're announcing is the ability to apply labels, view labels to documents in Office on the Web. So that works in Teams too. So whether you're just entering in your browser and opening up a document that's stored on a SharePoint site, you'll be able to label that there and see the label. That's also true for files that you're accessing via the Teams app because it's all the same thing.
Good.
And one thing I wanted to add, just to expand on the notion of a container label. So we're putting a lot of focus right now into the thought of you can extend a label which traditionally only applied to a document to apply it to a container, right? And so the container would be SharePoint sites, and it would be Teams, it would be Power BI, and a lot of other apps are going to be able to subscribe to being able to be considered a container, right? So then what happens is you can start applying some rules and policies around the container. So for example, if you have a highly confidential label that means something on documents, it might have a different set of attributes with respect to the container. So for example, you might say if I create a container, it might be a Teams channel or it might be a SharePoint site, and you mark it as highly confidential, what that means is that it's set to private, not public. No external sharing is allowed. Access from unmanaged devices might be either blocked completely or controlled to be only allowed through web view and not be allowed to download. And so what we're working on is extending that notion deeply into Teams. And we're working very closely with Teams right now to figure out what does DLP mean in terms of Teams. And we've got some things like, for example, if you, with respect to DLP, you can actually get a recommendation that comes up. If you create a new site, you can actually pick a label for that site or for that Teams group. And so we're going to be working to extend that in the future so that the communications channel that is in Teams is going to be completely subject to information protection, just like files are.
Okay.
Good. Thanks. There's a question in the forum here. This relates to Office apps, so I think, Mike, this might be in your world. Does labeling suggestions and recognition also apply to the mobile Office client version? So perhaps maybe you can start just summarizing currently which Office apps support automatic or recommended labeling.
Yeah, sure. So the place where we have ubiquity now is manual labeling. So we have the sensitivity button on all of those Office apps across platforms. The new thing that we're building is automatic and recommended labeling. So having those policy tip recommendations come up and suggest a label based on that content that's in that document. So we've started with Office on Windows, having that capability built in, and Office on the web. So that means in your browser or in the Teams app, for instance. The other platforms, Mac, iOS, and Android, for automatic and recommended labeling are the next ones on the list. We don't have support for that today.
I would mention, while the native integration in the apps may not be there yet, we also have service-side auto-classification that will be coming as well. So even if you don't happen to have that classification occurring natively or locally, as it passes through the service, the classification can also occur. So there's many different ways to assure that that happens.
Okay, good. Here's another question that came in. This is more of a question on best practices. Do you recommend forcing users to label documents and/or force a default label on all documents?
So that question, the answer is very business specific, but in general, what we recommend is to use a default if it makes sense to your business, and especially use a default that forces the user to reconsider if they are gonna do something that is slightly risky. For example, using a non-encrypted, non-protected in the traditional sense, like no RMS label that is internal. And you combine that with DLP rules that say internal stuff cannot go outside. So by default, I create an email and I start working on a long thread, and after a while somebody tries to forward that outside because they think that the thread is okay to be shared externally, and they don't realize that in bottom, like a few emails below, there is some content that should not be shared externally, and they say forward, and it basically says, no, this is not for external consumption. So a proper default label can help a lot to ensure a good classification. In some business, in some scenarios, you will want to force users to think each thing. A common practice is to make labeling mandatory and to define a default like the one I described for email and not for documents. Because users may create a few dozen emails per day, they don't create a few dozen documents per day. So forcing them to make a conscious decision about the classification on a document is not terribly onerous. You're not asking the user to put too much extra thought in their day by having to apply 2 labels to 2 documents per day. On emails, asking them to manually choose a label for each email might not provide an incremental benefit, because after a while it becomes just automated, like I'm going to click the same button every time just to get that pop-up out of my face. So it varies by company, but that's a pattern that we see a lot. Default for emails, forced classification for documents, but of course it's very business dependent. And even within a business, it might be org dependent or role dependent, so you might want to do different things for different parts of the organization.
Live question, please.
So I have 2 questions, actually. The first one is, how do we get started with AIP around documents that are classified with the everyone permission, both in SharePoint and OneDrive? And then the second question is there a way for me to protect file names? And I think this falls into that category of protecting your users from themselves, where you're dealing with top secret data and somebody puts some of the top secret information in the title of the file.
I'm going to start with the last one because we've seen that a few. An interesting tool that we have in this repertoire is the AIP scanner, which typically is used to scan legacy data in on-premises repositories. And in one of our engagements with customers, we found that as a practice, this was a school, and they had these big repositories with reports about school children and things like that. And their common practice, at least a few years before was to put the social security number of the child in the name of the file. Obviously not a best practice. Today, we do not scan file names because we never thought that somebody will put PII in the file names. But it's something that we are looking into because that's a clear risk. On the other hand, when you scan a file, we are logging the file name, which means that now the social security number is both in the file and in the logs. So the thinking, we don't have that yet, but the thinking will be, let's actually flag those as action needed, but don't do logging, don't do anything, because you end up having more problem than you started with. Then the other question was about how to start with SharePoint if you have already data that is classified as everyone. Not sure if anyone want to talk that, but essentially, actually everybody full control, meaning everybody in my organization full control, is actually not a bad policy. It's a great starting point, because if you think about the difference between that and clear text, which is what's in 90% of the organizations for 90% of the documents at least, that's a huge win. Like, if you lose a device, if somebody finds a USB drive, if you accidentally click forward, that policy protects you. Like you are protecting against any kind of negligent, accidental, or even theft of data by just having everyone full control. So actually we recommend that in the phase 2 of a deployment, the first phase of a deployment is just deploy labeling, deploy discovery, don't deploy protection. That needs more thought. And the good thing about that one is that you can deploy that in a week. You don't have to test if anything breaks because labels are not going to break anything. When you introduce encryption, you have to think a little bit more, but when you do that, start with everyone full control. That gives you, I will say, 90% of the protection, like 90% of the bad things that could happen to your data are covered by that. And at the same time, if there is any challenge with protection, users can, as a conscious decision, remove protection or reclassify or do whatever they need to do. And that means that nothing will break. Also, it means that the whole stack of functionality will break, and most applications that deal with protected data will be able to handle that. If you want to evolve that, now we have the tooling to replace the existing protection in a file. For example, in the latest client, if you say, well, you know what, confidential no longer grants everyone full control, it grants this other more restricted policy, the clients would automatically refresh that policy, and even the IP scanner will refresh that policy, and you have the ability to update as users open those documents and save them again, they will get the new policy. So it's not like I made a mistake, I started with everyone full control and I'm stuck with it. No, you can change the policy later and your documents will be refreshed as they are getting access. I'm not sure if I answered that question completely.
Yeah. Actually, just to add on to that, one of the key things like Enrique talked about, typically when the value of doing what your organization is already doing is the fact that upon egress is where the actual value shows up. Upon day-to-day usage within the company as it is, you know, people can open it and so on and so forth. But let's say somehow that document now gets copied and someone's trying to go open it in their home when they're not supposed to open that thing in the home. Now it's not going to work because they're going to be probably using their home credentials to try to open up the document. All right? And if the individual then logs in with their company credentials and tries to open up, now it gets flagged in your logging system saying this such and such person opened this document with their company credentials on a home PC that was not managed. Right? So all that information also kind of gets logged, and that way at least you have some richness of information where you can actually go ahead and react accordingly as well.
And one way to think about that is time to value. If you try to build the whole thing and apply the best protection, it's going to take you, with luck, a year to have everything set up, and during that year you have nothing. If you get compromised during that year, it's on you. You did nothing for a year because you were over planning it. If you actually say, well, let's start with labels, then we add some DLP rules, then we add everyone full control protection, then we investigate the impact of tighter protection. Day one, maybe with just deploying labels and some pop-up rules and some DLP, you eliminated 50% of your leakage, your risk. Then by adding encryption, everyone full control, maybe 40% more. And just if you look at the risk exposure drops dramatically, and then there will always be more to do. You will be tightening your rules, tightening your analytics and all that, so you get more protection. But you didn't waste a year completely unprotected before you had something. So actually that's a great start, and the good thing is that it's not at the end. It's not like because you chose that policy, now you're stuck with it. You can continue tightening the bolts as you go.
Got it. Okay, thanks. A follow-up to the first question that you answered about hiding sensitive data in the file name. If we have a group that's specifically asking, let's say there's a top secret project going on, they just don't want anybody to see anything that they're saving, but we don't want them to go outside of SharePoint. We don't want to have them doing shadow IT and building new solutions. They don't want it to show up in Delve. That was something that we saw, was stuff would show up in Delve, and that created some challenges. So do you have any recommendation in that situation?
So if I understand correctly, the problem is you have groups with highly sensitive data that maybe even the existence of the project will be revealing, and you want to provide the best protection for that. I think that will fall into the SharePoint space to first ensure that the SharePoint site itself is hidden and ensure that the documents cannot be viewed by even administrators. Beyond that, there are some things that you can do to ensure that the data is not propagated to the logs. For example, don't enable analytics for the data. So stuff that is in that library should not be reported to log analytics, because then somebody in the in the IT teams is, oh, we're about to buy Contoso. Like, that's the kind of thing you're presumably trying to avoid.
But I do want to also mention the fact that there's the element of actually going and creating labels and policies pertaining to that. So the person that's actually going and doing that will definitely see those values. So just want to be very clear. There's the consumption aspect of it, and then there's the administrative aspect of it. On the administrative side, you'll definitely see a lot of those labels and capabilities there. On the consumption side is probably where we can actually do a little bit more control on that, as it were.
And not exactly what you asked, but there is a very interesting feature that was recently introduced that aligns with that scenario, which is when you are looking for data that you cannot reveal that you're looking for. For example, let's say you have your top 10,000 social security numbers for your VIP customers. And it will be kind of dangerous, kind of risky to give Microsoft those 10,000 social security numbers to scan, because first you're putting them in the hands of somebody else, which you might not be able to do. And also because if you are scanning on your clients for those 10,000 social security numbers, you have to deploy those 10,000 social security numbers to every client, which is not a good idea. So we implemented recently in the DLP stack this function which is called exact data match, in which you're essentially not giving Microsoft those numbers, you're giving Microsoft the hashes of those numbers, so we can do the comparison and scan for the data without telling the scanner that you're looking for that exact data. We basically do a hash match. And that also applies to cases where you have, for example, list of acquisitions. If you're planning on acquiring 10 companies, you don't need to put those names in your policies. You basically create a hash, you give it to Microsoft, and then we will look for that data. That means that you're not revealing what you're looking for. I'm not sure if you want anything. Yeah,
let's take a quick question from the forum, then we'll go to the gentleman over here. The question in the forum is really about terminology. Tony, I think this one might be for you. The question is, in regards to labels, what's the difference between classification and sensitivity? Or perhaps stated differently, what's the difference between classification, labeling, and sensitivity?
Thank you. I love that question. So you were right. It's a great question. So, and the question is, what is classification? What is labeling, right? Are the two synonymous or are they different? And I think the way to think about it is that a label is a stamp on a file. And that stamp on a file can be applied either manually or automatically. If it's applied automatically, it's based on a classification policy, right? The classification policy is going to have a set of conditions. You might be looking for social security numbers or GDPR data or health information. That definition of a classification policy of the conditions is called a classification policy. The result of identifying that data in a file is a label, right? So the label ends up being put there as a result of a classification, but they're two separate things. So you may classify files and not label them. So for example, a label can be applied on Word, Excel, PowerPoint, PDF, and through some partnerships that we have, different file types like AutoCAD. But it can't be put on a text file because a text file doesn't support a label. But if you have a classification policy running in your environment, it'll actually look for the conditions inside of a text file, and it'll report back to you the list of text files that actually contain that classification, right? So you've actually got the classification in a data at rest report, but in some conditions you can't label a file.
To add one more confusing term to that, some organizations, especially government, refer to confidential as classified. And we have to get away from that terminology because it's like the classified is just any classification process, which might not be confidential. It might be I'm classifying as public. So we have to try to get away from that terminology and focus more on the classification as a process and labeling as the end result of that process, which might be confidential.
Right. One of the things that actually helped me a lot when I joined the team on how to identify the differences between the classification, labeling, and protection was a classification policy in this case could be, for example, people that live in a particular country. If they have an address, name, and a zip code and a postal code, chances there's a reasonable confidence level the fact that these people are citizens of that country. Labeling is when that person of that country carries a passport with them. All right. Now it's actually persistent. the fact that this person is actually of that particular country because they've met a particular set of policy and criteria, and now they carry this passport along with them, and that passport conveys with them as soon as they leave that particular domain or even play within that domain, as it were. But that was one of the things that actually resonated with me when when I first encountered this whole notion of classification, labeling, and protection. So that's something to definitely look into or take away as well.
And we haven't mentioned sensitivity yet, which was part of the question. So we refer to these labels as sensitivity labels. So in the product built into the Office apps, the button you click on to pick the label is called sensitivity. And when you click the sensitivity button, you choose your sensitivity label. So when we're on stage and when we're talking all this conference about labels, we're referring to sensitivity labels. It's important to call that out because if we were just to call the button in the product label, it would be super vague and ambiguous. So there's all sorts of categorization tech all throughout the Microsoft stack.
We've all two gentlemen waiting over there too, so.
But no, I wanted to mention that one of those confusing labels, it could be a retention label, which is a common issue, if very widely confused. So that's why we call them sensitivity labels, to make a clear differentiation from the other kind of labels you may have.
Thank you. We'll go over here and then over here. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I understand keeping stupid people from doing stupid things, but sort of on the other end of the spectrum, keeping malicious people from doing malicious things is how do we ensure the integrity of the labels?
Well, what was the question?
How do we ensure they don't tamper with the labels?
Correct.
So if a label applies protection on a document, the label is actually within the protected container. So if you're concerned about a file being maliciously modified, either the contents or the label on the file, applying protection is the way to do it. Unfortunately, that cannot be done easily in all file formats, but in the most common file formats like Office, PDF, and most CAD systems, you can enforce protection that actually protects the label. If the file is not protected, we don't protect the label. And that can be seen as a shortcoming, but in the end, if the file is not protected, what prevents the user from just grabbing the data and putting it in another file that is not labeled, or actually removing all the metadata or doing something else? So it will be nice if we could have tamper-proofing on the label, even if the file is not protected, but in the end, it will not make a big difference. If
They could modify it, take it out of the system, modify it, and put it back, and that wouldn't be evident.
That's true, but the user could also just take the data out.
Understood.
So it's a nice to have, and we have looked into that. I'm not sure if there is any action in that front into adding basically some tamper-proofing, tamper evidence on the labels, but it's not a deal breaker because in the end, what you're trying to protect is the data and not the label. If the data can go out, it's not.
Like maybe some kind of signature, or I mean,
And signatures are useful, but the thing is that if the whole thing can be removed, because if you just remove the whole label with the signature, for as long as we had documents without labels in the past, most of them for the majority of existence, then that will still be a problem.
Just one thing that I wanted to add is we built a new Activity Explorer in the system. It's going to be released later this year. Activity Explorer gives you an audit log of all label activity. So when labels were applied, when they were removed, when they were changed, when they were upgraded, when they were downgraded. And so one of the things that we'd recommend is get yourself a standard report that shows label changes in an organization. You can audit that, and hopefully that'll expose any kind of malicious activity for you.
One more thing too is the fact that at least when a document is labeled, and let's say if it's when the integration, whether it be through a third-party system or that we have interfaces that do things like get label, and that get label action could also do a lookup and figure out if that label is actually defined within the tenant or not. So there are ways where we can actually identify that and say, "Look, this label doesn't match up, or it's been pilfered with." Now, someone has to be really smart enough to know exactly what that long GUID is, all right, to be able to go ahead and reverse engineer some of that work. But if there's someone who's hell-bent on doing it, they will find ways to subvert systems. But it's not something that 99% of the populace would actually go do.
And if you see that this document had this label, and suddenly without that relabeling operation, the document no longer has this label, by same good, different label, and no removal of the label operation is shown, somebody tampered with the label. So you can discover those things. It's not perfect.
I agree.
Absolutely. No, it's a valid question, and we thought about it. The thing is that there is no perfect solution for that, and we don't see that as an enormous deal breaker. On the other hand, what we normally tell people is if it's important enough, protect it. And that kind of makes sense.
Okay, looks like we have time for probably a couple more questions. Sorry. Sure, go ahead.
So you guys have talked about a little bit of Exchange Online data at rest. Do you guys have technical details of how you're going to do that? How you can actually edit the files and apply labels? Are you going to use like EDM to actually look at that and based on your other automatic labeling mechanisms, or is it only going to be discovery? How's that going to come? Because like most customers, my first jump into the cloud was mailboxes. So how do I start to address those?
So I think one of the first places we're investing in auto classifications for email in transit. So when you send messages, we can scan them and ensure that the right label gets applied, and you can have granular controls to determine different labels based upon different business partners and whatnot. I think it would actually be great to hear from you. What would be your expectations if you're running an auto classification on data at rest in an Exchange mailbox? What does it mean if you apply that label to a document, and then is the expectation that that document is then encrypted in my sent items? What is the control that you're achieving by doing so, since the content's already been shared unprotected?
Right. So in the circumstance of I'm trying to protect data at rest in all the locations that sit, SharePoint's easy, right? SharePoint's a fabric, but mailboxes are a little bit different. Transit is great, and I'm hoping that EDM is part of your solution there, because that's what our big push is we can't use regular expressions in our data set. But let's think about if someone's account becomes compromised, they can't use the front door to get the data out, right? But let's say they use an API, an OAuth authenticated application, or EWS, or something like that. They can go in, find these documents, do quick searches, and actually pull that data out, because that's not quote unquote in transit over SMTP, right? That's what I'm guessing you're saying. So those documents that are super protected, say they're in the EDM and they're the most high classification that I want, is there an option potentially in the future to say, okay, just strip that document out of their mailbox, or strip it out and replace it saying, hey, this is really bad, and I'm going to go ahead and just pull it out of your mailbox and come to us if you have issues? Those are kind of been my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, so the ability to classify your data that's at rest in Exchange is definitely an ask that we've been hearing, and we're certainly looking at it. As I said, the challenge comes into what does it mean to protect that content when it's already been shared in a way that was unclassified and protected. I hear your kind of follow-up, sort of worrying about exfiltration or malicious insiders starting to use that data. That's certainly one way for that to happen. There's also, in addition to just using our classification tools, there are other tools that do exist, such as the Insider Risk Management solution that we just announced, that can look at the audit data, that understands about sensitive data as well as labels, and can identify when that content, whether it was labeled or not, has been used or copied in a suspicious way. But as I said, we're definitely looking at Exchange data at rest as another place.
And by the way, that's a very popular ask. Don't get me wrong, because it has the scenarios that we've been asked about. That is, for example, if someone's moving from on-premise Exchange over to Exchange Online, they've already got some information in the past that they want to classify based on that. So it still remains as a message in the mailbox. So it's definitely something that's on our backlog of things to consider. And it's a very common request.
And actually, one very common scenario for that is migrations from Lotus Notes, because those typically were encrypted with the Lotus Notes encryption, but we cannot do this exactly the same encryption in Exchange. So during the migration process, encrypt, or after the migration process, encrypting all the emails that were encrypted in.
Yeah, I think transit's first priority. That's awesome. Rest is second. Thank you.
Okay, let's formally wrap the session, but then we'll get to this question. A couple of notes. If we didn't get your question, please come to our information protection booth in the hub, and/or come to some of our select sessions so you can get your specific topic addressed. So thank you very much. Appreciate all the great questions. And now we'll go to after hours for a couple minutes.
There we go.
Please go ahead.
I have a question with regards to DLP and SharePoint, actually. In SharePoint, the DLP is actually dependent on a search, on crawling, correct? Yeah. So you know about, and it's even I think documented somewhere, that if you are excluding a particular site from crawling, it's actually the DLP is not applying the policies on it. Which means, actually, are you going to use the same for the auto labeling as well? If you will use a search as an engine for auto labeling, means that will be actually the same issue.
So the auto classification technology that we have in SharePoint and OneDrive is integrated with the search indexing system, absolutely. So we are reliant upon that for both the DLP classification and I believe as well as for the auto labeling that we're talking about as well. I know I've heard this question come up a few times. I think on the SharePoint and OneDrive side, there are looking at ways to identify when sites have been excluded or when search has been disabled is one mechanism to help you define that. But I think that I'm not a SharePoint expert in that specific area, so we'd have to go talk to them about that. But that's one way where I know that's been looked at as finding that.
As a complement to that, remember that if you're doing auto classification on the client via the Office built-in labeling or via AIP, that doesn't rely on the index. So for all new documents, if you deploy auto-classification with the same rules, those will be covered. It's only the legacy data that will be excluded because that will not be, unless users open and save the file, it will not be covered. But for new data, that should be still covered via the client-side functionality.
It means that you need to open the document in the Office, in that case.
That's, or in the...
But if you just copy that file from somewhere, it could be Word document, SharePoint document, no, actually Excel document, PowerPoint, but you just copy it to the SharePoint side from your Explorer. You are not opening it, right? So
yeah, no, that's why I mean new data. New documents that you're creating now, those will be auto-classified. The legacy data or anything that comes from another source, you will have to scan it in some other way.
would there be any way, basically, that you cannot exclude, or actually you are searching for those things, indexing it, crawling it, basically, but you are not exposing it to the search results? Basically, that would be the way, maybe, for you to be able to apply the indexes on the and actually use them for the DLP functionality.
I mean,
it would be kind of crawling and not crawling, yeah. But
yeah, I mean, I think so. Within SharePoint, SharePoint does have what's known as sort of security trimming. So if you search, you only can find documents that you have access to. So that's one way that it helps prevent those people from accessing content that they shouldn't be able to search for.
I'm not asking for that. Actually, I think for you to actually implement the possibility to apply the auto labeling and apply the DLP policies, even if somebody checks that he do not want to crawl that content.
Sure.
I don't know if this answer will hold because things are changing on that front, but MCAS today actually does not use the index, so it actually crawls on its own. So that might be a valid answer.
It's the separate scanner that will go through all the content without any search.
Yeah. Just one more thing there too is if crawling and applying labels, they're depending on, yes, there's a use case for that as well, but there's also different organizations where a crawler can probably classify upwards, but a crawler cannot automatically, if something's classified at a higher sensitivity, cannot bring it back down. They can recommend at least. So there are different types of nuances and challenges. We have to go look at that as well, because there's some very strict rules in certain government jurisdictions as well about non-person entities. So it's not a very easy thing to say, yes, we're going to do everything and make that available today. So we have to figure out exactly the kind of configuration modalities and things like that to be able to go make that happen as well. Good. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Let's stop it there. We'll hang out for just a couple more minutes. We'll turn off the mics there and conclude the session. Thank you very much. Enjoy the conference.
Thank you. Thank you.